EULEX, the European Union mission tasked with patrolling northern Kosovo, said a stun grenade was thrown on one of its armored vehicles on Saturday evening. But no one was injured. Josep Borrell, EU foreign policy chief, warned the bloc will not tolerate violence against members of its mission. #EU will not tolerate attacks on it EULEX Kosovo or use of violent, criminal acts in the north. Barricades must be removed immediately by groups of Kosovo Serbs. Calm must be restored, he wrote on Twitter. The latest protests were triggered by the arrest of a former police officer on Saturday. He was part of a mass resignation of Serbs from the force last month, after Pristina said it would require Serbs to scrap Serbian license plates dating to before the 1998-99 Kosovo War that led to independence. For a second day on Sunday, trucks and other heavy-duty vehicles blocked several main roads leading to two border crossings with Serbia. Both crossings were closed to traffic. The United States expresses its deep concern about the current situation in the north of Kosovo, the United States embassies in Belgrade and Pristina said in a statement. We call on everyone to exercise maximum restraint, to take immediate action to achieve a de-escalation of the situation, and to refrain from provocative acts. Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti has asked NATO's Mission KFOR to remove the barricades. We call KFOR to guarantee the freedom of movement. KFOR is asking for more time to finish this, so we are waiting, Kurti said. Late on Saturday, Kosovo police said they came under fire in different locations close to a lake bordering Serbia. The force said it had to return fire in self-defense. There were no reports of injuries. Kosovo declared independence from Serbia in 2008 with the backing of the West, following the 1998-99 war in which NATO intervened to protect Albanian-majority Kosovo. Serb mayors in northern Kosovo municipalities, along with local judges and some 600 police officers, resigned last month in protest over a government decision to replace Belgrade-issued card license plates with ones issued by Pristina. Police in Pristina said former policeman Dejan Pantic was arrested for allegedly attacking state offices, the Election Commission offices, and police officers and election officials. Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić presided over a National Security Council meeting on Sunday. I call on Serbs to be calm. Attacks against KFOR and EULEX must not happen, Vučić told RTS National TV. On Saturday, Vučić said Belgrade would ask KFOR to let Serbia deploy troops and police in Kosovo, but acknowledged there was no chance of permission being granted. We do not seek conflict, but dialogue and peace. But let me be clear, the Republic of Kosovo will defend itself forcefully and decisively, Kurti said in response to Vučić's comments. Kosovo and Serbia are holding talks in Brussels to try to normalize relations, and the EU has already presented a plan.
Sinema's switch to independent driven by political aspirations, Senator Bernie Sanders says. Senator Kyrsten Sinema's decision to leave the Democratic Party was driven by political aspirations for the future in Arizona, Senator Bernie Sanders said Sunday. I happen to suspect that it's probably a lot to do with politics back in Arizona, Sanders, a Vermont independent who caucuses with the Democrats, said in an interview on CNN's State of the Union. I think the Democrats there are not all that enthusiastic about somebody who helped sabotage some of the most important legislation that protects the interests of working families and voting rights and so forth. Along with fellow centrist Senator Joe Manchin, DW, VA, Sinema held strong negotiating power on Democratic priorities in the evenly divided Senate. She is a corporate Democrat who has, in fact along with Senator Manchin, sabotaged enormously important legislation, said Sanders, a prominent progressive lawmaker. Sinema's announcement to register as an independent came just days after Democrats reached a 51-49 Senate majority following Senator Raphael Warnock's victory in the Georgia runoff election, which expanded the party's narrowest of majorities. However, she has said she intends to keep her committee seats assigned to her by Democrats, meaning the party will still have a clear majority and full control of committees, a Democratic leadership aide told NBC News. In a recent interview on CNN, Sinema said she does not want to be tethered by the partisanship that dominates politics today. "I think Americans are tired of it. I think Arizonans are tired of it," she said. "The national political parties have pulled our politics farther to the edges than I have ever seen." Sinema added, "I want to remove some of that poison from our politics." While some Democratic senators have criticized Sinema's decision to leave the Democratic Party, Senator John Tester, D. Mont, shared a less critical view of her move in an appearance on NBC News, Meet the Press. "I had a good experience working with Kyrsten on a number of different topics, especially the bipartisan infrastructure package," Tester said, adding that he doesn't think it matters if Sinema is a Democrat or Republican as long as she wants to get things in Congress.
Stock futures are little changed to start the week with Fed meeting, key inflation data on deck. U.S. stock futures were modestly lower on Sunday evening ahead of a week with several anticipated events in the ongoing fight against inflation. Futures for the Dow Jones Industrial Average shed 33 points, or about 0.1%. Those for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 were each down about 0.2%. The move in futures comes as investors will be focused on inflation this week. On Tuesday, the November Consumer Price Index will be released, and traders will be looking for a sign that inflation is slowing. The Federal Reserve has a two-day meeting starting the same day. The central bank is expected to announce another rate hike on Wednesday, though traders are anticipating a smaller move than in recent months. In addition to the expected rate hike, the Fed's updated economic projections and Chair Jerome Powell's press conference could be key signals for what the central bank wants to do in the coming months. Financial conditions have eased dramatically since the October CPI reading released last month, so the Fed will likely use the December FOMC meeting to walk those back. "We think the markets are too sanguine on rates after the first quarter, and we expect Powell to take a more hawkish tone and for the dots to indicate higher rates for a longer period of time than what is currently being priced in by the futures markets," said Cliff Hodge, Chief Investment Officer for Cornerstone Wealth. Wall Street is coming off a rocky week that saw all three major averages lose ground. The Dow fell 2.77% for its worst week since September. The S&P 500 dropped 3.37%, while the Nasdaq Composite shed 3.99%. Futures opened flat. The futures market was calm on Sunday night ahead of a key week in the fight against inflation. Futures for the Dow, S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 were all within 0.1% of the flatline. Wall Street coming off losing week. The major averages fell on Friday to clinch a losing week, snapping a two-week winning streak for Wall Street.
Karen Bass to be sworn in as first female mayor of Los Angeles by Kamala Harris. Karen Bass was sworn in as the first female mayor of Los Angeles on Sunday, marking another historic achievement in her career. Bass focused her remarks Sunday on her plans to solve the city's housing crisis, with some 40,000 people living on the streets. Today, too many Angelenos have no choice but to crowd multiple families into one home, and to work multiple jobs just to barely pay rent, Bass said. Tragically, our city has earned the shameful crown as being home to the most crowded neighborhoods in the nation. Pico Union, South LA, East LA, the East Valley, she added. And Angelenos, we know our mission. We must build housing in every neighborhood. She said her first act as mayor will be to declare a state of emergency on homelessness. Though billions of dollars in state, city and county money are being directed toward interim and permanent housing units, construction has moved slowly. The latest count measured a 1.7% rise in homelessness from the last count in 2020. Bass's plan calls for housing 15,000 people by the end of 1 year and ending tent encampments using existing funding. She has said the city would put more resources into trained, neighborhood service teams, to connect people with housing and mental health services. The six-term Congresswoman has argued that her longtime relationships with state and national lawmakers would result in increased funding to Los Angeles to address the city's housing crisis. Bass has also promised to use her connections within the Biden administration to troubleshoot problems like the need for more federal housing vouchers. As mayor, she has said she would also pursue federal waivers to allow the creation of mental health and substance abuse facilities with a greater number of beds. Bass, whose home was burglarized earlier this year during the campaign, has also promised to address concerns about crime, noting her proposal to bring police staffing back up at a time when the city has struggled to recruit new officers. She has proposed moving at least 250 police officers back onto patrol from administrative work and has said she would hire more civilian employees to free up more officers to get back on the beat. Bass overcame a fierce challenge from real estate magnate Rick Caruso, who spent more than $104 million to defeat her in November. She's succeeding term-limited mayor, Eric Garcetti. Elected to the California State Assembly in 2004, Bass made history some 4 years later as the first black woman to serve as Speaker of any state legislature. This story has been updated with additional developments.